You can call me Haley Wilson. For months, I never imagined that checking my mailbox would make a difference in my life, and now I'm 32. I had been looking forward to my brother Kevin's invitation to his wedding when the envelope eventually showed up. Up until I opened it, my heart was pounding. There was a handwritten message inside instead of an invitation. "I'm sorry, sweetie. Only adults are permitted to attend this event. I'm an adult." The reality struck me hard. Stephanie, my brother's fiancée, didn't want me there. Anger, hurt, and confusion washed over me. Before I go any further on this emotional journey, tell me where you're watching from in a comment. Click the subscribe button and follow along as I explain how my life's most life-changing experience began when I was not invited to my brother's wedding. Kevin and I grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs close to each other. For years older than I am, it's just two siblings against the world. He was my confidant, my guardian, and frequently my partner in mischievous youthful activities. In our backyard, we would spend summers constructing intricate forts and conjuring whole worlds in which we were impervious to harm. In 7th school, Kevin repelled the local kids who made fun of my braces, taught me how to ride a bike, and helped me with my math assignments. When our parents' marriage failed, we became closer. Kevin was 19 and just starting college, and I was 15. Our parents were busy tearing each other apart during the nasty divorce, which included slamming doors, yelling battles, and harsh custody arrangements. My anchor was Kevin. Most weekends he drove home from Penn State to check on me, allowing me to rant about the commotion at home while getting me some ice cream. Using the moniker that only he was permitted to use, he would add, "It's you and me, Hales." The only people who can relate to this are us. Kevin was the one who cheered the most at my high school graduation. He traveled 3 hours to bring me chicken soup and watched awful action movies till I started laughing again after I experienced my first heartbreak in college. He helped me move and put all of my IKEA furniture together without complaining when I got my first marketing job in Boston. To each other, that was who we were. Before Stephanie Kevin met her 4 years ago at the esteemed Boston legal firm where they both worked, they were constants in a world that was changing. I recall his early texts about her praising her for her courtroom skills, how she made fun of his awful jokes, and how she pushed him to improve. I felt pleased for him. After years of casual dating, Kevin had never been able to find someone who shared his intelligence and ambition. We met for the first time at a fancy restaurant in the Back Bay. I saw how Kevin sought approval from Stephanie all the time. I was uneasy about a slight change in his confidence. As she evaluated me with a rehearsed grin, Stephanie looked elegant and composed in her designer dress, her pearl earrings gleaming. She replied, "Kevin has told me so much about you," but her tone hinted that those tales might not have been complimentary. She directed the conversation throughout dinner toward their country club connections and law business colleagues. With my modest flat and innovative marketing work, I was in a world I didn't belong to. Stephanie would gently shift the conversation when I brought up memories of my early years. As though Kevin's future had nothing to do with our shared past, Kevin's modifications occurred gradually. He first stopped returning my calls right away. Returning them frequently takes days. Since college, we have made phone calls on Sunday nights. Initially, they were monthly and then quarterly. Whenever we did talk, it was about his cases or Stephanie's achievements. He no longer inquired about my life very much, simply said, "Kevin is busy." When I voiced my concerns, our mother would respond, "When you are constructing a future with someone, that is what takes place." However, it seemed like more than just being busy. Erasure was the sensation. I tried to keep in touch with you. I planned tickets to Celtics games, his favorite team gave considerate birthday presents, and recommended brunches that accommodated his schedule. The majority of our attempts resulted in either last-minute cancellations or courteous but aloof encounters. I created my own life in Boston in the interim. I developed a small but devoted circle of friends, rose to the position of senior marketing manager at a tech firm, and had sporadic, non-serious dates. Stuck. My Cambridge apartment turned into a haven for me, tiny but brimming with local artists' works, books, and plants. I was pleased with the life I had created. However, without my brother, something essential felt lacking. He called to announce his engagement 6 months ago, which was the last time we had a meaningful chat. In spite of everything, I felt a wave of true joy for him. "Kev, I'm very happy for you," I said, referring to him by my childhood moniker. "All the happiness in the world is yours to have." He said, "Thanks, Hales," and I briefly heard my brother's warmth return. "Coming from you means a lot." I volunteered right away to assist with wedding preparations. I could create invitations, look up locations, and do anything else they required. An uneasy pause ensued. At last, he responded, "That's really sweet." The majority of it, however, is being managed by Stephanie's mother, while the remainder is being planned by a wedding planner. Nevertheless, I clung to the fantasy that the wedding might remind Kevin of our connection and perhaps bring us closer. I pictured us giggling over stories from his bachelor party, dancing like siblings at the reception, and celebrating fresh starts while remembering our common history. I excitedly checked my mailbox for months in anticipation of that invitation, but when it did arrive, it was nothing like what I had expected. It began like any other Tuesday, the day the letter arrived. At 6:30 a.m., my alarm went off. Just before my morning run along the Charles River, I forced myself out of bed to water my assortment of houseplants. The gentle golden light of early fall, my favorite season in New England, filled my flat. The clean air. I was always energized by the shifting leaves and the feeling of fresh starts. After coming home, I took a shower, made my morning smoothie, and went downstairs to check my mail. I generally only had bills and flyers in the brass mailbox in the lobby of my brownstone apartment building. However, that day was unique. A cream-colored envelope with tasteful lettering was sandwiched between a takeout menu and a utility bill. I recognized it as Kevin's right away. As I looked over the envelope, my heart was pounding. The paper had a faint sheen and was thick and costly. Unquestionably wedding stationery. The invitation finally arrived after months of anticipation. Almost skipping back upstairs, I held the envelope close to my chest. I opened it cautiously when I got back to my flat so as not to rip what I thought would be a lovely invitation. The expected formal card with RSVP information and gold embossment was not inside. There was only a little note card with a handwritten message on it instead. "I hope this note finds you in good health, Haley. Stephanie and I would like to inform you that our wedding ceremony and celebration will only be open to adults. We look forward to celebrating with you again and hope you understand. Kevin, love." In an attempt to understand the words, I read it 3 times. Only adults. I'm 32 years old, have a corporate job, and have an A401k. I'm not really a kid anymore. As the truth said in confusion gave way to realization. There was no invitation here. The reverse was true here. An official invitation. A warning that I was not welcome. As I reached for my phone, my hands shook. I rang Kevin's phone. My respiration was rapid and shallow. It immediately went to voicemail. "Kevin, it's me. I'm perplexed by your note that the wedding is exclusively for adults. I'm a real adult now. Please give me a call back." After an hour without a response, my attempt to concentrate on business emails was shattered. I texted, "Have you received your note? I'm not sure I get it. Can we discuss this in 20 minutes? His response was heard throughout the day in meetings. "With venue restrictions, it's simply simpler this way. Later we can talk." Limitations of the venue. The justification for his only brother was so blatantly obvious that it made my stomach flip. When he didn't respond that evening, I tried calling again. At last, I gave Stephanie a call. Her voice was calm and steady as she responded on the 4th ring. "It's not a good moment, Haley. The florist and I are meeting. All I have to do is figure out what's going on." I spoke, attempting to maintain a steady tone. "According to a note Kevin wrote me, the wedding is exclusively for adults. That doesn't make sense, though." She let out a tinny sigh over the phone. "Let's keep the guest list as small as possible. The venue's capacity is strictly limited. My sister is missed." My voice cracked as I spoke, his sole sibling. She said, "I understand that, but it seemed like she didn't. However, given the nature of family conflicts, we believed this to be the simplest. What conflicts exist inside the family?" Sincerely perplexed, I asked. Kevin said, "She said, you two haven't been close lately. Additionally, we were concerned that your emotional outbursts would cause embarrassment." My emotional inclination. Before I could reply, I felt as though I had been slapped. She went on, "We must return to this meeting immediately. Kevin can give you further details over the phone tomorrow." Before I could respond, the call ended. I clutched my phone as I sat in startled silence. I was crying when I opened Instagram and saw postings about bachelor and bachelorette party preparations from people we had in common. Colleagues from Kevin's company, Stephanie's college friends, distant cousins we only saw at funerals, and others I hardly knew all celebrated being invited to a wedding that I was specifically not invited to. I called my mom, desperate for answers. I told her what had happened, and she confirmed that she had known all along. "Honey, I was hoping they changed their minds," she added. The wedding is heavily influenced by Stephanie's parents, who also have strong views on the guest list. Kevin simply accepted that, leaving out his own sister in the process. Her quiet was sufficient response. "Are you going to be there?" I knew the answer when I asked. "I'm sorry, my love." I made an effort to persuade him that this was incorrect. She would still go, though. Everyone would. Instead of my exclusion being a seismic rejection, life would continue as if it were a small detail. On that night, Kevin and I built sandcastles in Cape Cod while I browsed through years' worth of pictures. At my college graduation, Kevin held a sign that read, "Proud Brother." Thanksgiving with Kevin, only 2 years ago, matching smiles, arms wrapped around each other's shoulders. What had become of us? At what point did I become disposable? I found out through common acquaintances that almost everyone else in our social circle had been properly invited months prior. The only notable omission was me. The information became immobile and weighty, like a stone in my chest. I was staring at my computer screen blankly on Monday morning. I had been working on the marketing proposal for several weeks. Insignificant symbols on an electronic page. Gina, one of my coworkers, came to my desk and put down a coffee. "It appears that you are in worse need of this than I am." Her voice was full of anxiety as she spoke. "Is everything all right? I instinctively responded. "Justin, get enough sleep. It must be infectious. Today, half of the office appears to be zombies." She stayed. "If you took a few days off, you know the team would still be there. How recently have you taken advantage of your vacation time?" I was unable to recall. Between wishing for wedding preparations and project deadlines, I had seldom taken any time off, much less weekends. I said again, "I'm fine." But even to my own ears, the words sounded phony. 20 minutes later, I was locked in the restroom on the 3rd floor, crying silently while holding onto the sink for support. The dark bags under my eyes were accentuated by the fluorescent lights. My skin tone. I hardly recognized me. Since Stephanie came into his life, Kevin had excluded me on previous occasions. Although there were reportedly few +1s allowed at the legal firm's holiday party, some coworkers brought siblings. The New Year's ski trip with only a few couples that somehow included single friends from Stephanie's side, and the housewarming party for their new Beacon Hill brownstone, which I found out about via social media posts the next day. I had made allowances for him, but each exclusion had been painful. He's occupied. The last minute was involved. He's preoccupied with his job. The wedding was unique. It was a planned wedding, scheduled several months in advance. This exclusion was public and intentional. My role in his new life was made very evident. My phone buzzed back at my desk, and Kevin's name appeared on the screen. To respond, I entered the stairway. "Hey," he said in a casual tone as though nothing was amiss. "I apologize for missing your calls. The planning of a wedding is crazy, I wager." Struggling to maintain a neutral tone, I said, "But I wouldn't know because I'm clearly not invited." He let out a sigh. "Haley, it's not easy. The location." "Don't." I interrupted him. Stephanie had previously given the location a try. "I apologize. Why are people I've never met on the guest list if there is such a restricted amount of space?" "But I'm not." There was silence between us. "Kevin, what's actually happening?" I pushed. "I'm worthy of knowing the truth." Stephanie believes he began, then stopped. "She is concerned that you would draw attention to yourself. You've always been very theatrical," she claims. "Too sentimental, too dramatic for ordinary human emotions." The words struck like physical blows, and I expected to be invited to my only brother's wedding. With a tone reminiscent of his legal arguments, he replied, "You're proving her point right now. Listen, all we want is a day devoid of drama, and the drama is me." I tried to keep my voice down, but it soared. "Kevin, I've been there for you through it all. Everything. When did you start to feel ashamed of me?" he protested feebly. "I'm not ashamed of you. Stephanie and I are the only ones that agree. The best is this. For whom is it best? Not for me, of course. It's also not in your best interests, in my opinion. However, you are too heavily influenced by her to notice it." "That's unfair," he yelled. "She has never been given a chance by you. I've only given her opportunities." Now I was yelling. "I'm glad the stairs is empty." Despite her evident distaste for me, I have made an effort to stay in touch with her, to encourage your connection, and to keep our bond strong for the past 4 years. And I receive this. Perhaps this is the reason. "Cold," he said. This response, this incapacity to consider anyone but oneself. I was struck into silence by the charge. Did he perceive me as selfish because of that? When had our views on our relationship become so drastically different? "I must leave," he whispered into the quiet. "Stephanie is awaiting. From a distance, I hope you can accept our choice and be pleased for us." Something basic between us was lost when the call ended. A peculiar quiet took the place of the emotional tempest as I collapsed against the wall. It was the serenity of closure, the permanent closing of a door. I went back to my workstation and did something I had never done before I opened my laptop. I asked for an emergency leave of absence. Weeks of it. My employer had noticed my pale complexion and red-rimmed eyes. Without question, it was approved. I was sitting cross-legged on my bed that night, using my laptop to browse vacation websites like, though I was in a trance, South America, Australia, and Southeast Asia, locations that always felt like they will appear someday. Locations. Why not right now? Why was I here? Really? I bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok, Thailand at 2 a.m. I winced at the price. However, something about the action's decisiveness felt appropriate. On Kevin's wedding day, I wouldn't sit at home by myself looking through social media and feeling sorry for myself. I would have too much to do. It was cathartic to pack. I crammed items into bags, picked out novels I'd been wanting to read for years, and yanked clothes off hooks with abandon. Kevin gave me a lift at the state fair when I discovered a picture album from our early years in the back of my wardrobe. We're both toothless and beaming broadly. After hesitating, I put it on the shelf. Looking back was not the purpose of this voyage. The following morning, after packing my bags and locking my apartment door, I experienced a sudden sensation, in addition to the pain for the first time in my adult life, a glimmer of exhilaration. I was doing something entirely spontaneous and entirely for myself. Maybe I could change my own story if Kevin could change our relationship. When I pulled my suitcase through the automated doors, Logan International Airport was bustling with early morning activity. The well-known travel anxiety. Was there something I overlooked? Do I really have my passport in my bag? I would be stranded between unreachable worlds for 24 hours, mixed with a peculiar sense of release. A sense of belonging, both everywhere and nowhere. As I waited at my gate, boarding announcements and security lines became indistinguishable, observing the arrival and departure of families, couples, and lone travelers like me. Before making her way to her departure gate, a young woman gave her parents a sad embrace. The scene brought back memories of Kevin helping me move things to my dorm room while he drove me to college. Before he went, he gave me a passionate hug. "Hills, you're going to crush it," he remarked in a rough, uncharacteristically emotional voice. "Give me a call at any time of day or night." Back then, I believed him when he said he would pick me up, and the 20-hour drive to Bangkok, Tokyo, and Thailand gave me plenty of time to think. In the anonymous darkness of an airplane cabin at night, somewhere over the Pacific, I started writing in the journal I had bought on the spur of the moment at an airport store. It's about me, not about Kevin or the wedding. How recently had I acted on impulse? When had I put adventure ahead of security? Had I grown too secure, too predictable? Kevin's harsh statements might have included a grain of truth. Perhaps I had spent too much time in the shadow of our shared past, evaluating myself based on the strength of our relationship, rather than forging an entirely own identity. This is not to say that I was dramatic or self-centered. As I stepped out of Suvarnabhumi Airport, Bangkok welcomed me with a wall of heat and humidity. It was an instant sensory onslaught. Among the commotion are honking tuk-tuk street merchants shouting in melodic Thai, and the strong odor of exhaust fumes, tropical flowers, and cooking spices. I was horribly, delightfully anonymous. According to my hasty research, the hostel I had last-minutely reserved was in the Ari neighborhood, which is less touristy than the Khao San Road region. The modern hygienic hostel for women only has valuables lockers and privacy drapes on each bunk. From the bunk above, I heard a voice as I put my backpack away. When I looked up for the first time in Thailand, I saw a woman my age with sun-kissed complexion and a disheveled blonde topknot. "Is it really that clear?" I inquired. She chuckled. "You have that wide-eyed, half-frightened expression. By the way, my name is Audrey, and I'm from Vancouver. Haley traveling alone from Boston." I gave a nod. I was abruptly struck with the truth of my circumstances. I had no actual strategy and was practically on the opposite side of the world. "The best way to travel," Audrey replied with assurance. "We're going to get some street food, if you'd want to participate." Powering through and instantly adjusting to local time is the best way to combat jet lag. My first reaction was to refuse and go to the comfort of being alone, but wasn't the goal of this trip to break patterns? That would be nice. I heard myself say, navigating the SkyTrain and eating pad thai from a street seller while sitting on a little plastic seat on that first evening in Bangkok was a haze of unfamiliar experiences. Audrey and her pals taught her how to say thank you in Thai. Tired yet too stimulated to sleep, I went to bed. Through the hostel window came the strange sounds of the city. I went exploring by myself the following morning. With just a tourist map and a little self-assurance, I was lost in a maze of market stalls in less than an hour. I went around the same temple a third time, panic rising in my throat. Then I received a text from my mom on my phone. I just picked up my navy blue sequined mother of the groom dress. According to Kevin, the location looks stunning with all of the floral arrangements. While I was exploring unfamiliar streets, reality slammed back. Everything went smoothly as they prepared for a celebration that I was not invited to. The message's casual cruelty and my mother's ignorance of the potential effects of such updates on me made me feel lightheaded. I staggered over to a bench nearby. It's getting hard to breathe. Here, thousands of miles away from home, is a panic attack. Excellent! Miss! Miss! All right. Despite the language barrier, an elderly Thai woman from the next flower stall approached with worry. Tears betrayed me as I attempted to nod. She immediately walked into her stall and came back with a jasmine flower, which she delicately inserted behind my ear, and a tiny cup of water. Lovely woman. She patted my hand and murmured in halting English, "No cry. Thailand, a happy spot." Something within of me was opened by the stranger's modest act of kindness. My hands trembled as I took the water. The beautiful aroma of jasmine was piercing my pain. After I had calmed down, I bought one of her elaborate floral garlands, purposefully overpaying. When she waved goodbye, her grin was the first real human interaction I had experienced in months. I located a little eatery that evening and placed my order by pointing to a dish that another patron had ordered. The resultant dish was the most vibrantly alive thing I had tasted in years. It was a fragrant green curry with vegetables I couldn't recognize. I was enjoying every bite when I saw another text on my phone, this one from Kevin. "Mom told you about the location," she said. "I hope all is okay with you. I miss you. Do you miss me?" It almost made me laugh out loud. I ordered mango sticky rice for dessert and shut off my phone without answering. I made the decision to leave Bangkok tomorrow. The hectic pace of the city was too similar to my inner turmoil. At the hostel, I needed room to think, to breathe, to start the healing process. I looked into seaside locations and purchased a bus ticket to southern Thailand's Krabi province. The following day, as the air-conditioned bus twisted through the Thai countryside, extending in all directions were verdant landscapes that were unlike anything found in New England. Rice paddies, palms, and tiny communities with golden temple roofs that sparkle in the sunlight. I felt a glimmer of appreciation for the first time since I got that cream-colored envelope. I would be in Boston right now, assisting with centerpieces or going to bridal showers, fulfilling my designated position in someone else's story if I had been a part of the wedding. Rather, being ostracized wasn't the conclusion of my story. Rather, it was the start of a new one. Like a postcard, Riley Beach appeared. Bring it to life. Towering limestone cliffs over azure waters. On calm waves, long-tail boats bob. White sand that is powdery and stretches in all directions. Despite its simplicity, my beachside hostel was in a prime location for sunset views. The regularity of the waves seemed like medicine after Bangkok's sensory assault. I recognized Audrey's unique chuckle when I saw a small group gathered around a beach bonfire on my second evening. She eagerly waved when she saw me. "Come on over, Boston." Audrey from Vancouver was added to the circle. Tyler is a Seattle-based American photographer who specializes on Southeast Asian climbing locations. Maya, a summer vacation kindergarten teacher from Canada. Before starting his own restaurant, Louis, a Spanish chef, is taking a year off to travel. Why are you in Thailand alone? Maya handed me a bottle of local beer and asked. A change of scenery was all that was required. I automatically responded. They practiced deflection. Tyler looked at me knowingly. Flying across the world for the sake of scenery is not something that most people undertake on a whim. Usually, there's a tale there about how strangers get together to form temporary families around a fire, and how the immense darkness of the sky and ocean makes human issues seem less significant. Loosened my hold on confidentiality. My brother is getting married, I said, astonished that I was willing to divulge. I wasn't invited either. There was a moment of collective fury on my part rather than awkward pity. Tyler said plainly, "That's messed up. No one else can truly hurt you the way family can." "Tell me," Louis continued. "My father missed my culinary school graduation because of a golf event, and I didn't talk to him for 3 years. Do you and your brother get along well?" "Typically." Maya opened a sound burst of floodgates by asking the question. I was telling these strangers everything before I even realized it. The adult's sole justification, the link formed during childhood, the slow distance, and Stephanie's covert animosity. The hurt changed from a personal embarrassment to a universal human experience as I spoke. Tyler revealed, "I haven't spoken to my sister in 5 years. She married a man who believed I was a negative influence because I chose photography over a legitimate career once I graduated. She eventually stopped picking up my calls. Have you attempted to get back in touch?" I inquired. "Every Christmas, every birthday," he continued. "You have to come to terms with the fact that you cannot make someone want you in their life. Even relatives, family in particular." Maya, who was more upbeat, maintained that such wounds usually healed with time. 10 years of talking about inheritance conflict between my mother and Andon. They are now inseparable. Whether he will change his mind is not the question, said, jabbing a stick into the flames. If he does, the question is whether you will still want him in your life. Their differing viewpoints, from Tyler's realistic acceptance to Maya's optimistic patience, provided a lens through which to see my predicament. These individuals were familiar with Kevin, me, and our past. They had no baggage or motive when they shared their ideas. I immediately accepted Tyler's invitation to go island hopping with them the following morning. The day flew quickly as we spent hours at a time swimming over coral reefs, scaling rocky outcrops to get sweeping views, and savoring fresh pineapple on immaculate beaches that were only reachable by boat. As I checked my email in the hostel that night, I forgot about Boston, the wedding, and the hurt. Wi-Fi is spotty. I discovered a message from my supervisor. "Take as much time as you need. T misses you. When you're ready to go back, position yourself securely." I was impulsively released by the promise of a job to return to. I messaged my new pals to ask whether they would be interested in going north to Chiang Mai after I extended my hostel reservation by 2 weeks. All 3 were excited, and suddenly my spontaneous getaway became a legitimate adventure. The days that followed fell into a pattern, exploring in the mornings with my fellow travelers. I occasionally spend my afternoons by myself with my journal. On beaches that are more tranquil, sharing stories and food in the evenings. My social media apps were erased. I'm sick of friends unintentionally sharing wedding updates. It was unexpectedly freeing to be away from a continual digital connection. We volunteered at an elephant sanctuary in the neighboring bush 1 week into our stay in Riley. This was a genuine rescue effort, where elephants are allowed to roam freely, unlike tourist traps that promote elephant rides. We cleaned enclosures, prepared food, and kept a respectful distance from these kind giants. They never lost sight of their family. According to the head of the sanctuary, elephants form bonds that last for decades, even when they are apart. They celebrate births, grieve for the dead, and guard the weak. They have a stronger understanding of family than humans do in many respects. I suddenly started crying as I saw a mother elephant carefully lead her calf across a mud pit. Observing Tyler silently gave me his camera. "It can be helpful to look at things from a different perspective," he remarked. "Try concentrating on them rather than your inner thoughts." I was able to photograph the gentle interactions between the elephants through his viewfinder, with their trunks intertwined and their bodies positioned to protect the younger ones from the sun. The matriarch is always on guard. The concentration needed to take quality photos forced other ideas out of the way, resulting in a contemplative environment where the past and future temporarily vanished. Maya persuaded us to go to a neighboring Buddhist monastery that evening, where guests could receive meditation instruction from a monk who spoke English. With its golden Buddha sculptures shining in candlelight, the temple was a peaceful sanctuary. The monk, who was younger than I had anticipated and had a surprising sense of humor, discussed attachment as the cause of pain. He clarified that we hold on to preconceived notions about who we should be, how relationships ought to be, and others. We suffer when these expectations are not met by reality. Changing our expectations to embrace reality rather than making reality fit our expectations is the way to serenity. That sounds like a surrender. I uttered the words without filtering them. He grinned. Acceptance and surrender are two different things. To surrender is to lose. Acceptance is deciding to focus your energies where they may have an impact on your own behavior and heart, while acknowledging that there are some circumstances that are out of your control. I followed his comments back to the shore, where I sat by myself and observed the moonlight on the water. Even though our lives were becoming more and more different, I had thought Kevin would keep us close in spite of Stephanie. I had assumed that family would take precedence over anything else. I had been crushed when reality did not live up to these aspirations. But what if I just accepted reality as it was without questioning whether it was fair or right? What if I concentrated on relationships that were freely given, like my new acquaintances, rather than battling for a relationship with someone who obviously didn't value me? What if I used the energy I'd expended on hurt feelings to create a life so satisfying that for the first time being left out of a single event, even one as important as a brother's wedding, couldn't ruin my joy? I pondered whether this agonizing rejection was a gift in disguise. The motivation I required to begin figuring out who I was on my own terms and to stop defining myself in regard to other people. Notifications were unavoidable in Chiang Mai's historic walled city calendar. 2 days before Kevin's wedding, I had been passing the time by going on adventures in Thailand instead of commemorating wedding milestones. However, reality has a way of getting in the way. Despite the distance, at 3 a.m, the wedding day officially started. A panic attack in our lodging. In order to avoid awakening Maya in our shared room, I crept outdoors and sat on the stone stairs while waves of worry swept over me. Since the non-invitation arrived, I had been dreading this moment and trying to avoid it. Not able to sleep either. With his camera in hand, Tyler emerged from the doorway. I was on my way to the Doi Sahaba shrine to witness the sunrise. "Would you like to participate?" After hesitating, I nodded. "Indeed, absolutely." We arrived at the mountain temple complex in the Vale of Dawn. In a sea of clouds, gold stupas rise like islands. Tyler captures monks doing their morning routines. I located a peaceful nook with a view of the city below. It would be the afternoon back in Boston. Kevin would be preparing, maybe anxious with all the guys around. My parents would be in their best clothes. My mom in her dress with navy sequins. They would turn Stephanie into a bride. She achieved her victory by keeping me from seeing this significant event. I was still sitting there when Tyler found me. His photography ended silently 1 hour later. He took a seat next to me. "Isn't it the wedding today?" Quietly, he asked. Unconfident in my voice, I nodded. "You've had this look for the entire week, I assumed, as if you were preparing for a blow." He paused. "Do you want to discuss it?" I said I didn't really, but perhaps I should. He waited calmly as I collected my thoughts. I've been attempting to comprehend the reason for the intense pain. At last I said, "I mean, it's only one day. However, it feels as though we have been removed from both his life and our common past. According to Tyler, it's symbolic. Weddings are about bringing families together and forging new relationships. Being left out makes it quite obvious where you stand." "That's right." It was unexpectedly reassuring to feel validated. I'm constantly questioning whether I did something wrong or whether I somehow deserve this. Based on all that you have told us, existing as a reminder of your brother's identity prior to the arrival of his fiancée was the only thing you did incorrectly. He didn't sound pity. He was a matter of fact. For some people, to move on their history must be erased. It speaks louder for them than for you. Silently, we waited as the sun rose fully, destroying the fog and exposing the vast city below. I admitted that I had been considering writing him a letter. I'm being honest about how this has affected me without being irate or accusatory. I'm not sure whether or not to send it. "Do you need assistance drafting it?" Tyler volunteered. Finding the appropriate words might occasionally be aided by an external viewpoint. Luis and Maya had planned a surprise day trip to a secret waterfall that they had heard about from neighbors back at the guest house. They tried to divert my attention. I almost started crying at the gesture. Maya said, first breakfast and letter writing, next adventure. Wallowing on sticky rice mango and strong Thai coffee is not permitted today. With occasional gentle guidance from Tyler, I put my heart into paper. As you read this, dear Kevin, you are most likely married. I hope your day fulfilled all of your expectations. I want you to be happy in spite of everything. Since we were little, that has remained the same. I also considered my big brother to be my hero. Asterisk. My perception of our relationship has evolved. I've been trying to ignore things for years, but your decision to not invite me to your wedding made them clear. On such a significant day, the brother who once drove hours to bring me soup when I was grieving would not have permitted anyone, not even a loved one, to push his only sister away. Asterisk. I'm not writing to demand answers or to make you feel bad. I'm writing because I need to let go of these emotions in order to go on, because keeping them inside has become too painful. There are no words to describe how badly it stung to be left out of your wedding invitation. It seemed like a public admission that your new family's tastes were more important than our common past and connection. Asterisk. This has nothing to do with not like Stephanie or not valuing your partnership. Feeling disposable is the issue. To the person who once gave me a sense of irreplaceability, I want to know what happened about you, me, and us that made my presence on your wedding day unwanted instead of necessary. Asterisk. I'm in Thailand right now, trying to get over this hurt. I've come across amazing folks who have shown me that family is a combination of our birth and our choice. Instead of relying just on duty or a common past, I hope that one day we can reestablish our relationship on the basis of respect for one another and a sincere wish to connect. Asterisk. You were my brother as a child, and I will always treasure that. I wish to know and love the guy you've grown into someday. If that picture has space for me, love with an asterisk. Asterisk. Haley. Asterisk. I addressed the letter to his house instead of the honeymoon location, and I sealed it in an envelope. I wasn't sure if I would email it or not, but writing it was like slicing a wound. Painful, but essential to recovery. The trip to the waterfall turned out to be just what I needed. A challenging trek through a dense jungle, the satisfaction of swimming in glistening pools beneath tumbling water, a picnic on rocks warmed by the sun. During those times of total presence, instead of being the focal point of my day, Kevin's wedding became inconspicuous. The others left that evening to explore the renowned night market in Chiang Mai. When my mother's number appeared on my phone, I stayed behind since I suddenly needed some alone time. I nearly didn't respond, but my curiosity got the better of me. Can you hear me, Haley? The links. Not very good. The sound of my mother's voice was distant and weak. Mom, I hear you. How did the wedding go? Startled at my own poise, I inquired. Lovely, it all went smoothly. She hesitated. With one exception, though. What is that? Your brother continued to search for you. During the ceremony, she spoke gently. During the first dance in the pictures, he would look around the room as if he were waiting for you. My chest grew constricted. Was there anything he said? Not explicitly, but he appeared strange and preoccupied. Stephanie even saw another pause. Honey, I believe he regrets what transpired. I wasn't sure how this information would make me feel. I wanted to be vindicated, for Kevin to acknowledge his error and bear the consequences. There was another part of me that felt sorry for us both. Stuck in a pattern. Neither was entirely sure. It's finished now. Finally, I said. I hope they're content with each other. I sat on the guest house balcony and watched the street action below while I processed the chat after we hung up. At midnight, my phone buzzed once again. Kevin's phone number. As I responded, my heart pounded. Haley. He mumbled his words. Is the background noise indicating a club or bar? Is that you? It's me. You should be rejoicing now, shouldn't you? I am. We are honeymoon in Bali. I had to contact you because I needed to hear your voice, even if you sounded fakely happy. You're intoxicated. Kevin. Perhaps. Most likely. He chuckled. Then he stopped talking. Oh, Hales, I was wrong. You should have been there in the background for the biggest error. Stephanie's voice sounded irritated to me. Kevin. To whom are you speaking? That's my sister, he said. Moving away from the phone is the voice. Right now, I'm only telling her about the wedding. We are on our honeymoon. Hang up for 1 minute, he protested. Now, Kevin. There was no argument in her tone. He went back to the telephone. You must leave, but I had to let you know that I was missing you. When I return, we'll resolve this. Promise I adore you. Hales. Before I could answer, the phone stopped. Sitting there, I gazed at my phone. Feelings whirling. It was Kevin who called. Sentimental. I'm sorry. The brother I remembered and the husband I feared he had become were both easily influenced. Alcohol and separation from Stephanie's direct influence caused him to have a flash of insight, verified what I had assumed he knew was incorrect, but lacked the guts to stand by it, excluding me. But his pledge to make this right seemed vacuous. What was repairing exactly? A late apology, inclusion on occasion, when Stephanie agreed. That was no longer sufficient for me. An hour later, Tyler came back from the night market with a small paper bag and saw me still on the balcony. He pulled out a bottle of Thai whiskey and 2 tiny glasses and added, I thought you might need this. Maya said your mother phoned. Update on the wedding. Kevin, too, and truly intoxicated, called me from his honeymoon to apologize for not having me there after I nodded and accepted a measured pour. Tyler's eyebrows went up. What are your thoughts about that bewildered sad? Still a little irate. I took a sip of whiskey, enjoying its warmth. That call would have meant the world to me 2 months ago. According to Tyler, words are simple, therefore I'm not sure if that makes a difference. You see, particularly intoxicated ones. That's right. He fought for me and insisted that I be included for months. He decided not to, several times. That cannot be undone by a single regretful phone call. The distant sounds of the city provided a soft background as we sat in friendly stillness. I can't stop thinking about what the monk at the temple said. Eventually, I mentioned focusing energy where it can have the greatest impact. Despite being so far away from everything familiar, I felt more at home than I had in months as I gazed out at the sparkling lights of Chiang Mai. After devoting so much energy to a relationship in which Kevin wasn't as devoted, I believe I need to establish some boundaries now. I'll be open with him about what I need from him moving ahead if he contacts me sober again. Consistent acts that demonstrate my importance, not promises. I turn to Tyler, but I'm also coming to the realization that his decisions no longer determine how happy I am. He clattered his glass to mine. That seems like the start of independence, my friend. Paper lanterns were released into the night sky during a local festival, and my last days in Thailand were filled with a variety of activities. A granny who didn't speak English but was able to communicate properly with gestures and smiles taught me how to make real pad thai, Maya and I meditating at sunrise. Picture: Tyler and I laughing about street life. Lewis and I sampled unusual fruits and marketplaces with every new encounter. The wedding and its aftermath came into sharper focus. Yes, it was a big hurt, but it's no longer the story that defines me. You've changed since we first met. Audrey watched us spend our final night together in Bangkok before we left to catch our separate flights home. More current, less tense. Thailand transformed me. That wasn't quite right, I said. In other words, it allowed me room to evolve. We sincerely promised to keep in touch as we exchanged contact details. Next on Tyler's itinerary was Vietnam. Maya is returning to Canada for the academic year. Luis is traveling to Indonesia to further explore its cuisine. Although our paths had only met once, it was significant evidence that family might be found in unexpected places. I had time to mentally be ready for a turn on the journey back to Boston. Even though I had only been gone for 3 weeks, it seemed like years. I had started a notebook on the flight over, and it was already full of plans, observations, and insights. Plans for life, not just travel. I wanted to make some changes. I have to create boundaries. I put off my dreams for too long. I felt that my apartment was smaller than I had recalled, a little stale from lack of use. A hand-carved elephant, vibrant silk scarves, unpacked trinkets, open windows, and spices for Thai cookery efforts were all things I tossed, instead of just putting things back the way it was. I moved furniture around, hung pictures Tyler had taken of our travels, and set up a meditation area with temple-inspired pillows. Internal changes were mirrored in the physical ones. I was building a new life that included the lessons I had learned at work, not going back to my previous one. Observe the difference right now, colleagues. You ought to put that vacation in a bottle and market it. After I offered new concepts for our faltering client campaign, my manager replied, "You almost seem to glow." I stopped working overtime out of a hazy feeling that I had nothing else to do, and instead put myself into initiatives with fresh creativity. Rather, I drew a distinct line between work and leisure time, spending evenings taking photography lessons in the area, going on hikes, and trying out Thai cooking methods. 2 weeks after I got home, Kevin came back from his honeymoon. His message was informal, as though nothing important had transpired between us. Back in the city, coffee. We quickly made plans to meet in a neutral cafe that is situated midway between our areas. I got there early, grabbed a corner table, and ordered tea to help me relax. I was immediately struck by how unremarkable he appeared as he entered. Kevin, as usual, not the hero or the villain. He was what my feelings had portrayed him as. After an awkward hug, he said, "You look great." In some ways, different. Thailand concurred with my assessment. I answered plainly. He fidgeted with his coffee cup and nodded, regarding the wedding. I interrupted, "But it's all right. You don't have to elaborate, but I do." There was pain on his face. I have not been a good brother. Everything that transpired with the invitation was incorrect. I was aware that it was incorrect, even as I followed through. "You did, but why?" I inquired. I had been plagued by this question for months. He let out a deep sigh. "It's not easy." When Stephanie's parents promised to cover the majority of the costs, she and her family had an idealized picture of the day. They arrived with restrictions regarding the guest list. It didn't matter, even though I told myself it was only one day and that it wasn't important in the big picture. Silently, I said, "It was a sign that something more significant was taking place between us." "Now I see that." His gaze was fixed on his coffee. "To be honest, I felt bad about it all day. Not having you there felt weird. Thank you for stating that." I said, and to my astonishment, I really did mean it. "But it's not only about the wedding, Kevin. It's about having your friendship with Stephanie alter your relationship with me, and withdrawing for years. I'm not sure how to weigh things, but he didn't deny it either. Sometimes Stephanie feels envious of my relationship with you, because we were growing up so close. That was not the case with her siblings. That makes sense. I stated it carefully, but it doesn't mean you can keep me out of significant aspects of your life. I'm requesting to be respected, not to be given priority." "You are important," he demanded. "Hales, you are loved." That remained the same. Kevin, love is more than just an emotion. Actions are what it is. It's appearing. Making tough decisions to safeguard significant connections might occasionally be necessary. I inhaled deeply. Going forward, you must put in constant effort for me to perceive it. If you desire my presence in your life, not only when Stephanie says it's okay or when it's convenient. He appeared surprised by my candor. It's possible that the previous Haley would have accepted his apologies unconditionally. I'm thankful for any chance to reconnect. The new Haley knew she was too valuable for that. At last, he responded, "That's fair. I'd like to perform better. My sister is missed. I also miss my brother." The person who saw me clearly and appreciated what he saw was admitted. We discussed topics we ought to have discussed years ago during our nearly 2-hour conversation. There were only 2 adults hesitantly repairing a damaged bridge, no ecstatic conclusions or heartfelt reconciliations. Both were willing to try, but neither was sure it would hold. As autumn gave way to winter, Kevin worked steadily but modestly. I received weekly phone calls, sporadic lunch encounters, and even an invitation to supper at their house, but Stephanie was coolly courteous rather than inviting. I maintained the full life I had started to build after Thailand while cautiously accepting these offers. That first serious test came around Thanksgiving. Kevin and Stephanie were present at a family get-together at my parents' house. Awkwardness was a real possibility, but after meditating in the morning, I came feeling calm and resolved to put more emphasis on thankfulness than on unresolved hurt. Stephanie remained chilly, but I didn't feel as impacted as I used to. It was her business what she thought of me. Her approval was no longer necessary for me to be accepted in my brother's life. Now that he could see her behavior more clearly, Kevin would sometimes reroute talks when she started to act dismissively or check in with me in private to make sure I felt included. Little yet significant steps. Family members scattered to different couches for post-meal naps as the dishes were removed. I was discovered on the back porch by Kevin. "Thank you for coming," he said plainly. "It has great significance. I'm happy I came. I almost didn't, but it did apply." Tyler offered to take me to Peru for the vacation. For National Geographic, he is taking pictures of Machu Picchu. Thailand-born Tyler. With real interest, Kevin asked, "Have you maintained contact?" I showed him some recent pictures Tyler had sent me from his trip, and nodded. Each of us has Audrey Lewis and Maya. Next spring, we intend to travel to Japan for a reunion. Kevin remarked, "That's amazing," and I sensed a tinge of wistfulness, but no judgment. "You've accomplished a lot in your life while I was away." "I had to," I said. "To be honest, I couldn't wait for our relationship to be mended in order to be happy." This he took in with unexpected ease. "That makes sense to me now. I simply appreciate what you're providing me, granting us another opportunity." As I was finishing up the details for my weekend photography course, I contacted Tyler later that night about the day's activities from my apartment. A framed picture he had shot of me at the elephant sanctuary was hanging on my wall. I was laughing and my hair was catching the sunlight, appearing really alive and present. A fresh calendar with forthcoming excursions was placed next to it. A series of cooking classes, a Japan reunion, and a solitary hiking excursion to Maine. I had unexpectedly been included in a wider world after a journey that started with a painful exclusion. Once my entire concept of family, the brother was now only one significant link in a complex web of relationships. I discovered Kevin had liked my most recent Instagram picture, which was a self-portrait I took at the top of a nearby hiking trail as I was getting ready for bed. It was a modest gesture, but it seemed to indicate that he was now recognizing that I was more than simply who I had been in his eyes. The way forward was still unclear. It took weeks or months to mend relationships that had been harmed by years of neglect. I may never be completely welcomed by Stephanie. For the first time, I faced these possibilities fearlessly, even if Kevin could find it difficult to keep his word under duress. I was no longer dependent on uncontrollable results to be happy. In the end, the invitation that had once saddened me had brought me a surprise present. I had been compelled to find my identity outside of being Kevin's sister. I had discovered something more valuable in myself, surpassing comfortable constraints and accustomed routines in abandoning what I believed to be necessary. How about you? Have you ever been the victim of exclusion that eventually brought about unanticipated growth? Or how can you establish limits with family members that have harmed you? Post your tales in the space provided below. In order to help others find this video, please hit the subscribe button and like it if this journey spoke to you. Keep in mind that sometimes the most beautiful redirections result from the most painful rejections. I appreciate you joining me on this journey today. Continue making your own adventures until the next time, whether or not they contain everyone you had hoped for.